channel. YouTube history is happening this week and I really wanted to make a video about this because it's pretty bad. Today I'm going to talk about the biggest YouTube creator, Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, who comes in at over 308 million subscribers here on YouTube. He is the single most subscribed channel on this website. Mr. Beast is a multimillionaire, and he is most well known for his philanthropy, giving away money to those in need and also doing challenges for cash prizes. He has even helped pay for thousands of people to get life-changing surgeries that they could not afford themselves. These good deeds helped him build a reputation as being a good person who doesn't just spend the money he makes on himself, but actually gives back to the people around him and the community. Unfortunately, it was all a facade. This reputation was built piece by piece by Mr. Beast and his PR team to have a good reputation in case any allegations ever came out about anything to do with their productions. Having a good reputation like that is key to being able to get through any kind of controversy without losing your entire career. So that is exactly what he did. He started the philanthropy to cover up anything that he would ever do that is considered unethical, because it really did shield him from many of the consequences of doing these types of controversial things. Now, unfortunately, this week, that good reputation was not enough to hold back the floodgates from bursting open with all of the allegations that are now coming out about Mr. Beast and his productions. Today, we are going to discuss the Beast Games and all of the allegations that have come out in the last couple weeks to how bad it actually has been on set of this game show. But first, do you like videos on the latest and lamest things here on the internet? Well, if you said yes, you might like my channel. Give this video a like and subscribe because I upload commentary videos once or twice a month. Thanks so much to anyone who supports my channel. Before we get into the Beast Games, I do want to go over some things that happened last year as they are quite relevant to things that are happening this week. So let's go over what happened when Rosanna Pansino first exposed Mr. Beast last year. Rosanna Pansino, a YouTuber best known for her baking videos, was ahead of her time when it came to exposing Mr. Beast. Rosanna took part in the Creator Games 3, where she signed up for a YouTuber hide-and-seek game that took place inside of a sports stadium, with a prize of $1 million. This game of hide-and-seek lasted over 24 hours, and Rosanna did pretty well, even surprising herself. When the game was down to just 4 people, they actually offered her money to give herself up, come out of hiding, and end it right there. But she declined that offer because she wanted to actually place. Even if she didn't win, she wanted to place, and she was very close to placing in the top 3, where she was already. So she declined the offer to be paid to give herself up, and she continued to play the game. Shortly after declining the offer, Rosanna is found, and that means she placed in 4th. She goes along with MatPat to start looking for some of the other people that are still hiding, and Logan Paul, who is out at this time, and Mr. Beast go separately to a different area of the stadium to keep looking for the other 3 people. Now, later she would find out the person that was in 3rd had actually fallen asleep and didn't move hiding spots when they were supposed to, so they actually were disqualified, meaning that in 3rd was Rosanna, in 2nd was Quackity, and in 1st was Zach King. And that was how she was, as far as she was aware, that was how everyone had placed in the game. So you can understand how confused and upset Rosanna would be when she sees this video come out several weeks later and they completely edited her out of the final placements. She was no longer in 3rd like she was supposed to be, and Quackity was not in 2nd either. They had edited both of them out of the placing, and when Logan Paul and Mr. Beast had gone off separately near the end to try to find the other people, they had filmed a completely separate ending. So instead of those 2 being in 2nd and 3rd, they still had Zach King in 1st, but they made it so that Logan Paul came in 2nd when he had been out really early on. And then in 3rd, they had Larray, the man who had fallen asleep and been disqualified, which is the reason that Rosanna placed in 3rd to begin with. For whatever reason, they undisqualified him and let him win 3rd. Like in the video, they edited it to make it seem that he was in 3rd. So they edited 2 people out for completely no reason. Like, those people won fair and square, but because they wanted something that seemed a little bit better, maybe the star power, maybe they just wanted Logan to be in the top 3 because his name brings views, but it's still kind of wrong, especially for someone like Mr. Beast, who likes to portray himself as, like, not faking anything. All of the stuff that he films is real. This was the first time that any allegations had ever come out that Mr. Beast was faking anything. So, and then you can probably understand why there was a lot of people, especially his fans, that did not want to believe that this was true. And Rosanna got a ton of flack for coming out with these allegations. She was called a liar. People question, why do you even care? It's not like you won anything anyway. But it's the principle of it. Like, she won 3rd place, and the only woman in the top 3 was edited out to put another man there. Like that, someone who had already been disqualified and shouldn't have placed to begin with. It's not right, and I'm glad that she exposed it. But that was the first time that anyone had said anything against Mr. Beast, and unfortunately, it just wasn't the right time yet, because it wasn't enough to fully sully his reputation. He was still doing really well, still gaining subscribers, still getting a lot of views, a lot of money. It really didn't affect him all that much. He didn't really lose that many subscribers, and if he did, he made up for it shortly after anyway by getting new ones. It really did not hurt him the way it should have. But these last couple of weeks, things have shifted. People are not giving him the benefit of the doubt like they used to, and I think that that's really important. He is getting allegations from all angles here, and I think that that's really good to talk about, because I know for a while I felt unsafe to even talk about not liking Mr. Beast as a creator, so I can't even imagine what it was like for people that were victims of him wanting to speak out about these things that they went through, but knowing if they tried before he was ever exposed for anything, that they would be absolutely shut down and harassed by his followers, because that is exactly what happened before all of this. The Mr. Beast channel has already done a Squid Game knockoff, and it seemed to go pretty well, although it was a bit controversial. But I think that Jimmy decided it wasn't crazy enough and wasn't big enough, like, scale-wise, and so he decided to do it again, but bigger. He did this show called The Beast Games, and he's actually doing this in collaboration with Amazon Prime Studios, where they got 1,000 contestants to compete for a prize of $5 million, which is the biggest prize in television and streaming history, according to Amazon. On the official website, Jimmy is quoted as saying, "My goal is to make the greatest show possible and prove YouTubers and creators can succeed on other platforms. Amazon gave me the creative control I need to try and make it happen. I hope to make the YouTube community proud." But I don't know that proud is the word that I would use for this. On July 26th, Rosanna posted a TikTok talking about the fact she had received over a dozen emails from people that were both contestants in the Beast Games, as well as people that worked behind the scenes in the production of this game show, that were talking about how bad the conditions were on set of this show. As of today, she has only shared a couple of these messages publicly, because a lot of these people are scared to come forward. Some of them have NDAs, things like that. But she did read this whole testament from one person who never signed the NDA, so we can get a picture of what it was like for a contestant to be in the Beast Games and how they were treated. Let's go over the conditions on set. This contestant goes on to discuss a lot of the health risks that were involved with being on set of the Beast Games. Now, it's a game show, so most people would expect that there could be some type of danger, that you could get hurt, but you sign that waiver and it sounds real scary, right? Risk of death, risk of injury. But most people know that if you're on a set of a game show, and especially for like a major well-known name like Amazon, that they're going to do everything that they can to make sure that you are safe. Like, there is a risk that you could get hurt, but it's low because they're going to do everything they can, right? But unfortunately, that is not the case that happened here. They did promise a lot, but they did so little to actually keep their promises here. It's insane. So a lot of these people were having health struggles because they were so disorganized in running this competition. There were people on set having seizures because they were promised they would have access to their medication that prevents them from having seizures. And then for whatever reason, they were going without their medication to the point where they were having seizures again. That is insane. The fact that they were somehow not able to get the medicine into these people when it was happening in a stadium shows like Survivor, where they're out in the wilderness. They make sure those people get their medication because that is a huge liability. If you don't get the person their medication and they get seriously seriously injured, unfixable amount of injured where they have like permanent damage, or if they die, you will get sued badly. These companies do not want a lawsuit like that. They will owe them a lot of money. So the fact that they cared so little about these people's health that they couldn't even get them their medication, insane. There were also 5 people that ended up testing positive for COVID right after competing in these games, so they may not have been all that careful in COVID procedures, especially because it's not like mandatory anymore to do those things. So they probably just were like, oh, it's not mandatory, I don't care. They don't care if people get sick. They don't even care if people have seizures. Why would they care if they get COVID? There was also a contestant that was allowed to compete with an active pink eye infection. And if you don't know, that is insanely contagious. So they absolutely could have spread that to someone. And there's no proof that they have, but it's definitely possible. And they should not have allowed this person to compete. I'm sure they had more than 1,000 people lined up that they could have had like someone come in real quick to take that person's place. They should have not been allowed to compete with an active infection like that, especially one that literally you just would have to touch it and have it on your hands for it to be infectious, and it's itchy. So most people, they're gonna touch it. It's just, it's so gross that they let that person in. Crazy. So it's very obvious that they do not care about the health and safety of the people that are coming onto this show, especially with a budget of $100 million. Like, where is that money going? Because it's obviously not going into keeping these people safe. I don't understand it. That should be top priority in a situation like this, yet somehow it's one of the last things they're even thinking about here. Not only do the people running this game show not care about the health and safety of those in it, they also completely misrepresented this game show to all of the contestants. They made it seem like it was going to be just like Squid Game, like an even playing field. Every player has a chance to win. But in reality, that was not the case. Most of the games in this show were strength or speed related, meaning that the young, athletic men are the most likely to be able to succeed in these games, whereas all of the elderly people and a lot of the women that may not be as fit as some of these men are, they just did not stand a chance in some of these games. Eventually, one of these men would use violence to take out one of their opponents. They tackled somebody, and you would think they would be eliminated for that you can't use physical violence to get ahead in these games, but nobody eliminated him. Nobody stopped him. He tackled a woman, and she passed out from it, and instead of anything happening to him, he got to continue the game, and she was dragged off the field while they just continued going. She was eliminated just like that, and it was no fault of her own. And you would think that they would do something to make sure that doesn't happen again, to make sure there's not like a domino effect. But unfortunately, because they did nothing, it kept happening. Multiple people were tackled. Some of them passed out. Some of them had broken bones. Some of them had large gashes that needed stitches. And almost all of them were women. Can you imagine someone using physical violence on you, hurting you in a game like that? And then to see them get to go on and continue the game because for whatever reason, they decided they don't want to eliminate that person while you're out for good with a broken bone or stitches that you're going to have to go home with now. It's literally insane that they allowed that. I don't understand how they could just let that happen and think that it was a good idea or a good look to just let all the men be hurting women like that. It's insane. The nurses in Las Vegas who actually treated these injuries came out and confirmed that it did happen. So we do have some proof that this did take place. It's not just the word of one contestant. There's multiple people that have confirmed that these injuries did happen. I really need to set the scene for you so you can really understand how dystopian this whole situation is. So on the field, these people are competing. These men start tackling all these women. There's broken bones, there's passing out, there's blood, there's stitches, people are getting hurt, okay? They're getting dragged off the field, and the game just continues. And the entire time, on a pedestal high above where this game is taking place in this stadium, Mr. Beast is up there, looking down at everybody, fighting with real violence for $5 million, and he doesn't stop the game. He's also dressed in an outfit that looks exactly like the villain of Squid Games. He believes that he is that villain, and that is why he did not stop the games, because he likes the idea of being the person that's in charge of these peasants fighting for this chance at some life-changing money. He likes to be able to watch that in his name, that these people are fighting for something that he has and will always have, and something that they've never had and may never have. It's so wrong to think about the fact that he's up there watching this like it's entertainment. That's not entertainment. If you think that that's entertainment, you're fucked in the head. The contestant also spoke about the living conditions on set, and it is pretty bleak. So their meals were only about 400 calories. One of the examples for the meals they gave was they got a small bowl of cold oatmeal. They got a small little cup of fruit and a small little bowl with a little bit of vegetable pieces in it, and then water. And I'm sorry, that's just not enough. 800 calories in a day is not enough for any adult. The minimum for women is 2,000 calories, and the minimum for men is 2,500. So 800 is just, oh my God, it's so bad. These people were literally starving. If they were going to be there for a long time, that could really affect your body. The fact that they thought that was okay is pretty fucked up. But not only did they only give that amount, the food and water in the building was actually really scarce. So they were running out of food and water because they had 1,000 people to feed. That's a lot of people. I don't know if they realized how big of a logistical issue it was going to be to feed and give people water. Like it's a lot. And so there was fights happening. There were fights happening over food and water. There was people that were hoarding food and getting into line a second time to get food and water, and with 1,000 people, it's going to be almost impossible to keep track of that. So while some people would hoard it, other people wouldn't get any at all, and it was already scarce to begin with. So if they're not getting any at all, some people are probably just straight up not eating or having water, and then are supposed to be able to compete in a game. Like, that's crazy. That's like the bare minimum, is feeding and clothing and getting water for these people, and the fact that they just couldn't even do that. It sounds like they were completely unorganized when they were creating this show. Like, they did not have any idea of what they were supposed to be doing to make this work the right way, and they just did it as cheaply as they could. I really do believe that he did it as cheaply as he possibly could so that he could try to keep some of that budget money. That's the only thing I can think of, because so many things were overlooked while doing this show. It's just insane. The contestant also spoke a bit about the sleeping arrangements. So they actually slept on the hard ground of the stadium, which was most likely like cement or something. And all they had was a really cheap, thin sleeping bag. So they didn't even have pillows. A lot of the people were using bags that they got with their clothes in them when they first got there. They were using these bags as a pillow because that's all they had. And they also were pretty sleep deprived. Like, they didn't let them sleep very much. They only got about 3 to 4 hours of sleep each time they went to sleep, because they were doing up to 20-hour days of filming and playing games. Like, that's too much. That's too much even for the people working on the set, let alone these people that are just like normal average people. Like, they're not getting enough food and water. They are stressed out. They may not even be getting their medications like they're supposed to be. And then they're also sleeping on the hard ground with hardly anything to lay on or to even have a pillow. And they're only getting a couple hours of sleep a day. They were literally torturing these people. Let's be real. That's what that is. All of these things I've talked about so far, it's torture. It's literal torture. They also really didn't care about women's health issues either, because they let people sit in used feminine products for days, waiting for fresh underwear and for more feminine products to be able to change out. It's barbaric the way that they treated these people. They treated them like they're cattle. Like, we're just gonna get 1,000 of you huddled into this arena so that we can film you, but we don't care about what state you're in. We're just trying to get the shot, because the shot is way more important than anything you guys got going on. It's disgusting. It's a terrible mindset. Whenever someone was eliminated from the games, they were offered $1,000 if they were to sign a contract that stated they would never join a class action lawsuit of any kind if any were to ever come about. And if you didn't sign that piece of paper, you did not get the $1,000. So if you came there and then were eliminated, you got nothing for your time unless you were willing to sign away your legal rights. So there are definitely people out there, especially the ones that got hurt, that did not want to sign because they knew they might be able to get some money out of a lawsuit because they were injured. So they wouldn't have signed and they wouldn't have gotten that money. And that means that they went there, and instead of getting paid for their time being on the show, they're going to have to pay because they got an injury, and they're most likely going to have some type of follow-up appointment. For the broken bones, they definitely will have to go back to make sure that they can get the cast off, to get it cut off. And for the people that have, stitches, they'll have to go back to get them out. So most of these people, if they didn't want to sign away their rights, they had to incur costs just for having gone there. And that's super fucked up. Shortly after this game where all these people got injured happened, there was an article that came out talking about some of these injuries and some of the people that had sustained them giving their testimony. And apparently the Mr. Beast team got really panicked after this happened because they started calling everyone back and offering them another $1,000 for inconveniences. And we're also still trying to get people to sign if they had not signed yet. So they must have known that there was something really bad coming for them because they didn't really feel like they needed to act at first. But once those injuries in the article came out where it started to leak to the public, then I think they started to worry. And that's when they were like, oh, maybe we can just throw money at it. We'll patch this up. It'll be fine. But obviously, it's not fine. After Rosanna's video came out talking about some of these allegations, as well as many of these other people that were contestants coming out with their own stories on different social media sites, there was a lot of buzz in the mainstream about this. People started making videos on YouTube, and more articles were written. There was even an article in the New York Times that I'll have listed down below. There was a lot going on, and once it came to light that this stuff was happening, there was actually official movement within the industry to try to prevent this from getting worse. Very recently, a notice was sent out by IATSE, which stands for the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. This is a union for people that work in the entertainment industry. Mostly it's for the people that work behind the scenes, not the actual actors themselves. But basically, this notice was sent out so that anyone who is a part of this union cannot work for the Beast Games any longer. Anyone that was working there has to immediately stop, and if anyone does break the rules of this stop work order and they do work for the Beast Games, they will lose their membership in the union. This is actually really big news because they don't often do this type of thing unless it's really serious. So the main reason this stop work order was put out wasn't because of how dangerous it was to be a contestant on set, although it didn't help things, obviously. But the main reason why they did this was because while Mr. Beast wanted the union workers and the good quality work that they bring, he did not want to pay them what they are owed. Not only was he paying them less than the standard of wages for that type of position, he was also fighting back against paying for their benefits. So that was why the stop work order happened. He did not want to pay for the extras. He thought that he is important enough and he's used to not having to pay those types of things because he's a YouTuber. He was used to paying for people that may not know their worth or may know that they can get something by being on Mr. Beast's channel and therefore are willing to accept less because it could pay out for them in the future. So that's the kind of treatment he was used to for people that were working under him, and he felt that even though he was using the union, that he didn't have to pay union prices. And I'm sorry, that's just not how it works. I'm not sure why he expected that to work out for him, but it didn't, because now none of them are allowed to work under him without threat of losing their union. I'm really starting to think that it's possible that he found out that he'd be able to keep any of the extra money that wasn't used for the actual production, and that he skimped out in as many places as possible to try to keep as much of that money for himself. That's the only thing I can think of, because there's so many different areas of this production that were just unethical and were kind of like cheaped out on, so that they just didn't function properly. Like, they couldn't get people underwear, they couldn't get people medication in time. They couldn't even make sure they had enough food and water for these people that they brought there. That just shows to me that they either didn't plan out well enough to create this show, or they just on purpose skimped out on the details and skimped out on the things that cost money to fully flesh out and make sure everything's safe so that they could keep it and pocket it later. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because otherwise this entire thing is just completely irresponsible, and I don't understand how it happened otherwise. Even after going over all of that, that was just the tip of the iceberg, folks. But I am out of time for today. I am going to be looking over all these other things that have come out and the things that are probably going to come out after I film this video and see if there's enough there for me to make a second video. Most likely there is. So keep a lookout for that, and thank you so much for watching through this video. I really appreciate it, guys. It means a lot to me. If you could like this video and subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out, and thank you so much to anybody who does. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.